Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome back to the glorious Lathrixian Pride, and its new canon variant. Off camera, I've been a little bit busy. I haven't done too much, but I've done enough that I want to show it, and you can probably tell already what's changed. The new Lathrixian Pride, the Lathrixian Spite, or perhaps even the Lathrixian Vengeance, is now smaller. Yes, indeed, that took a lot of surgery, trust me. I cut a large section out of the main hull, of the main part of the deck, and have simply copied the front and pasted it a lot further back, meaning that we've took away a lot of the redundant metal in the middle that was simply empty, well, empty rooms there for buoyancy, which really didn't do much considering all of the functional rooms are also just as buoyant. So we've done that. I am yet to smooth it out. That's what we'll be doing today, smoothing out the bottom here so that it's all nice and neat and stuff and not really obvious where the old one's been attached. And then we're going to focus on the top. So we're going to figure out where exactly the new turret's going to go, the new weaponry, and what we're going to do with this back section here. I have a feeling these two spikes, which are currently completely redundant, will be replaced with something else. So, one thought I did have, and this is probably not going to happen with this ship, but if I build a new ship it certainly will, is we could always have a command bridge in the middle, a much larger structure that will enable multiple turrets to be mounted on it and around it, and also have space so they don't shoot each other. This would also act as a nice bit of armament. The bulwark is a good example of this actually, so if I quickly summon in the bulwark corruption, I believe I called it when I stole it the last season. There we are. Summoning the bulwark. See, the bulwark has a very large centerpiece here with the main building here, meaning that you can mount turrets higher than the other turrets. We of course don't have that because we've been trying to go quite low in the water. Also, let's just turn off the bulwark before it rams into us. So that's probably what I'll do in the future, but for now we're going to focus on simply improving what we already have. And how we're going to do that is, well, once I decide, we'll cut right back. Well, to begin with, though, we really should finish off armouring up the bottom here, so that it's no longer just a random giant gap in the armour. So, what I've essentially done when I cut off the front is I've taken the very, very front section there, so not even the whole thinner section, and simply attached it to, well, just before it starts doing that curve upwards. So that curve upwards there has been completely removed. So we're essentially replacing it and trying to figure out a way to make it go even further up without, well, losing all of its size. So if we could, I would love this to simply merge up now and not continue any higher, because continuing any higher simply means more blocks equals more lag and less ships in the battle, which has been our entire issue this entire way through. So I would love to fix that. That would be lovely to fix. I think this would be a nice simple way of doing it. Then we can darken this later to kind of show where the slope is a little bit better, like I have done on the original Pride. There we are, got the two sides there. We can always double armor it later if we so desire, but for now let's just do that. And how does that look? Does that look like it merges? See, the problem is that's gone in a little bit too quickly, hasn't it? Wait, is that still a 4? Oh, wow, okay, so a little bit of a mistake there. I thought we'd already hit the 2 meter long sections, but no, we're still on the 4 meter long. So let's just quickly grab the corner piece there, like that. We could do very similar though. So if we do that, then we grab the diagonal. I could be putting these on my hotbar, but I just prefer to do this right now since we're only adding like one of each. Do that. Add the 4 again. Add the 4 over here, so it's a bit further than I wanted it to be. But same concept, different size of block. Okay, there we are. Let's destroy this above us. And we'll put that down. And there we go. We've got the front section merged at least somewhat decently, so it looks a bit more natural, unless, well, random metal suddenly jutting out of nowhere. So we armoured that little hole up here, and then we have this here. So we have 2 sections rather than 1 section rising. Okay, that's fine by me. And that will give us a lot of buoyancy space here and limit the amount of blocks we have. It's weird going with block limitation. That's never something I've really been focused on, so this is a bizarre experience for me. But there we go. Yep, that looks nice. Now, do I actually want to add that weird front keel? I might do, but for now we're going to leave it, and we'll simply see once we've finished building if we actually have enough spare blocks. Okay, so we're currently actually under 11,000 right now, meaning this is probably the smallest ship in the Navy. Well, the current functioning ships that I've designed. So the next thing I want to do, before we work on the turret, because I'm still working on cutting things where it's unnecessary, so both missile systems will be here. Then we have this section here, which I've never been happy with and it's never been finished. I've decided what I'm going to do is remove this back section, because I'm really not happy with it. It just does not look good in my opinion. And we're simply going to have this curve go all the way down. At least all the way down until it starts going inwards, then we'll just shrink it quite naturally. That way we miss out all this area here, which was originally going to actually be a small drone dock on the original one, until I decided it was going to be more of a drone ship anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this and see if we can just simply remove this whole section, save all of the blocks, put the blocks somewhere else, actually in the main body, and make the ship more effective, rather than being just big. I mean, that's the problem with the hull. The hull too, the missile hull, is very, very large, but has little on it, and that's the problem. It's not pretty, but most of the rear armour of the ship has been removed. Now, this has managed to save us 800 blocks, and although we are going to be adding more armour once again, it will never get to quite that level, meaning that we have saved quite a bit, meaning that we can focus on more important things, and the ship will become better for it. Now, one concern I do have, before we start smoothing off the back section here, is that although this turret does take up a large room, which will be fixed later on, it's currently quite well protected. From the sides and from the front, it's either double or triple armoured. It's got 2 layers there, 2 layers there, so actually it's quad armoured from the sides, and it's got the entire ship on the front and the very back section just there. But upon doing this, we're actually thinning the armour on the back, meaning that the main turret room is becoming very vulnerable. So I'm going to have to ensure that we don't go too far in too fast to make sure this section here doesn't become a sudden weak point. As because this turret can do a full 180 turn, we do need to ensure that all of this machinery can turn and then armour up from the very point of turn. So probably around about here, I would imagine. I'll have to have a quick test. But yeah, other than that, I am pretty happy with how it is going. Now it's time to smooth this thing off, which will take quite some time. The first section of 2 is now complete, and honestly speaking, I am a lot happier with it than I thought I was going to be. It's smoothed out nicely, and although it is clashing quite harshly with the old armour, I have plans to actually fix that. And I've also made 2 tiny little underwater repair tentacle sections, because it dawned on me once I was building it that I'd actually lost a whole repair room, which was in the very middle of the ship when I stunted it a little bit. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add the propellers to the back, and how we're going to do that is to cut even more into the ship, which is what's going to help smooth this out by creating a support beam structure, and we're going to have them around about this far in. This will mean I will have to destroy and move the engine, but thankfully I have put it all on a prefab, so it's very easy to put it into the free areas, and I am tempted to make 2 engines rather than 1, although it is less efficient, because the longer the engine, the more powerful it is. It's more efficient. You get more power per block the further it goes, essentially, to put it simply. It would also make it a lot safer. Having 2 engines means that you'd have to destroy 2 whole areas, and since this is going to be heavily shielded, the engine is very important. So I've already started breaking some blocks here. I did find some really inefficient build here, so I was really happy. I am now, I think I said before, under 10,000 blocks now. I can't remember if I said it in a bit I actually was going to keep after editing or not, so there we are. Just under 10,000, and we're probably going to cut out this entire room and move a little bit into this one, as we do have two basically useless rooms that used to house the broadside weapon, which was obviously here for the, hello Mega Turret, for the aircraft variant of the Pride, which still does exist, by the way, and I'll be finishing that off soon, as the Pride is essentially done, other than a few weapon systems. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll add our propulsion, and then we're pretty much a functional ship. just with no AI yet, but I still can't decide where I'm going to put that. Our little prototype is now finished, and honestly, I'm quite happy with it. It's very simple looking, very clean, and it does kind of drag the old armor down, making it look a bit more natural. I've also went ahead and I've created 2 little areas for some more repair tentacles, as while I was building this, it did kind of dawn on me that I had managed to completely remove a whole repair bay when I had shrunk the vehicle. So with that done, we can now focus on more weapon systems and where they're going to go. So I'm almost certain now I'm going to be removing these 2 sections, so let's do this together and see just what happens. I also see a bit of lag happening at the moment, because it turns out one of my renderers just started by itself, because it was on a silly little timer. So I'll go and stop that as soon as I take this out. So I do apologise if there's a bit of frame loss right now. So let's just quickly remove this. And the idea is this is going to give us a load of extra space, and once again it's going to save blocks because we don't really need this chunk of armour here, as it's not really serving any purpose. And this can hold 2 turrets with some form of holding mechanism on top of it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the ramp. I really love the ramp, that's the problem. The ramp to me is freaking awesome. I do love the fact it looks like a aircraft carrier, but of course it no longer is. So removing that would also be fantastic. Certainly makes it look like it's serving a better purpose now. Well, a better purpose? A different purpose, I should say. There we go, now that's removed. We'll just quickly pull it out of play. Then put it back in. Let's have a look how it looks now. And float, please, thank you. So we have this area here to play with. That's not as big as I thought it was going to be, honestly. So if we can remove this section as well. But again, I do like this little side ramp. Yeah, I think we are going to have to remove the main ramp here, which I really don't want to do, but it seems like something I'm going to have to do. Anyway, I'll be right back. Just going to restart the game and quickly turn off the renderer, or at least put it on pause, and then we'll figure out how exactly we're going to do this. Well, that certainly is spacious, and the lag has gone, hurrah! So, to start off with then, I want to see the dimensions and size of some of the Onyx Watch's cannons. Now, honestly, I don't know how I feel about simply lifting the cannon straight from the Onyx Watch, but using them as an inspiration certainly wouldn't be too bad. Maybe having one minor cannon somewhere from the Onyx Watch, just to show them our supremacy, would be cool, but ultimately I would prefer my own style. So these are actually the perfect size, but a bit too far forward. Let's try again. That actually is pretty darn good. So some weird colouring glitch there. I can just repaint those, I believe, but yeah, that's the kind of size of cannon I'm going to want, as we're still going to have so much dead space, and it's purely because we haven't built the back high enough, and if we really wanted to build such a high area of the ship, well, there's the cannon from the underside, we would have to really put it in the middle, which I don't want to do. However, I've got an idea actually. What we could do is have these 2 where they are now, and actually just keep them, honestly, as broadsides, and only broadsides, and then have a slither of metal about this high come from this section all the way down, be rather hollow, honestly, and then stop here. This would then allow for a 3rd cannon piece here to look a little bit more natural, something like perhaps the Onyx Watch's larger cannon, although it technically isn't actually as powerful, because each cannon is slightly weaker than those cannons because it has less stuff inside, which is odd because it looks really darn powerful, but actually does a fair bit less damage. That wouldn't be a terrible idea, honestly, and it wouldn't be too difficult to pull off nicely. And we are, even with all 3 of these turrets, we're still under 11,000 blocks. Our goal was around about 13,000, so we do have the potential to do that, but I still think that some smaller turrets would probably be the better, and of course these turrets are extremely wasteful block-wise, as they are, well, as you can see, a bit over the top with their metal shell, which is essentially what the Onyx Watch is. So, I'll have a think, I'll have a ponder how to remove some more blocks from the ship, and I'll be right back once I've came to a decision. A little bit more ship surgery has occurred, as you may be able to tell by the currently rapidly sinking piece of hull, and we are now back under 10,000 blocks, and that's including these 2 turrets. Let's see how much we go down by once these 2 are removed. There we are. Let's see, and, well, there we are, back down to 9,000 blocks if we remove the two extremely wasteful turrets. So we now once again have a lot of room to kind of mess around and figure out our perfect weapon system. And I've achieved all this by, well, I cut out another section here. I think it was 5 blocks long, so it's even more stunted than the previous version, but that's fine considering we're not going for an oversized vessel here, even if it is already pretty big. So the question is then, what kind of weapon systems are we going to add? I want to very quickly check how much do these turrets actually give us in terms of block count, because these are actually very good. These were on the Lathrixian... No, not the Lathrixian Pride. These were on the original hull, and they cost around about the same as the ones from the current amazing Onyx Watch, but they are significantly stronger. So I'm thinking we'll have 2 of these, one here, one there, as I previously was kind of thinking about. Then we'll have a small piece of metal here, just kind of shape it all out a bit. And then at the front we will try to work in some kind of forward-facing gun, or possibly even broadside. There's the thing, we could go full broadside with these sorts of weapons, because that would be quite easy. We could have one slightly raised above the other, and simply have 2 sets like that, and that costs about the same. And these aren't that much worse. They're certainly a lot lower gauge, but at the same time, they do have a much faster fire rate. And then there's also this version, which is a little bit more powerful, but only by a little bit, due to it's got more blocks on the inside of the stem. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with, one or the other. I'm thinking about the 2 broadsides, then perhaps... Oh, I know what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to do the 2 broadside, so we're going to have one of each variant here. So we have this one at the closest to the main structure, this one a little bit further, and then in the middle, we will have the hull's main gun kind of going down the length of the ship. As this gun at the front, at the back, our main turret can't actually aim down anymore for the own ship's safety, this will enable direct forward firing, and these will just be there for fun. That seems reasonable to me. I really am not the cleanest of builders. So I'm pretty happy with the positioning right now. Although the 2 turrets are on the same level, as they are purely going to be used for broadside and not allowed to fire forward, they won't actually knock into each other, so their field of fire isn't affected at all. The front gun does look a little bit small, I will admit. It doesn't quite have the presence of the back cannon, and certainly doesn't look as impressive as the Onyx Watch pieces. However, for its strength, it really is quite cheap, and that's kind of what I'm going with now, both cheap in terms of resources and block count. So right now, we are running at 10,496. Ideally, although I threw around a lot of numbers, the extreme maximum we should really be aiming for is around about 12,500. As long as we don't hit over that, it ensures we can have at least 2 of these active at any given time, and considering their healing ability and long-range capabilities, they'll probably do well with each other. The one massive problem right now is they have no anti-air. Yes, this turret at the back can shoot upwards, but it's too slow, and the type of bullets they have it's using is extremely low velocity. They're not very quick, meaning that flyers can tend to get away. That, of course, will be fixed with the missile system. At least one of them will be very, very much aimed around shooting down flyers. So, these side pieces as well are probably going to be removed. In fact, I will start to remove them now, at least from here, because this is where the next bit of building is going to go, the next bit of building work, and all this is going to be is a bit of a for-show kind of armour segment, which is going to be falsely holding these 2 turrets, because of course you don't actually need to hold them at all in that regards, and then attaching to the turret at the front, making it more purposefully there. Okay, so let's start with that then. So let's go back to regular coloured blocks, because it's part of the main hull. We don't need this here. So colour replace, just Wait, were they just regular blocks then for a second? Okay, you see, that's what I'm going to have to do as well. At some point, I'm going to go through the entire ship and sort out that. There are several locations which aren't using beams, and honestly, that's hundreds of blocks which are currently being used up when they really shouldn't. So how are we going to do this then? So, see, I like the idea of them being held, obviously being held, which of course would just be in the middle here, so that's where it would be being held from, so the point of turn is there, so it looks like it's being held like that. The problem is, because of how far they are inwards, if we did that, the actual main body of the thing going forward would have to be tiny to actually make it any... to make it look as if it's being held separate from the main building at all. I mean, we could do that, there's no harm in that. That certainly would, again, save a lot of space. And then put that forward one. And then we'd have something over here connecting to the weird little pattern on the side here, which I just love and can't bring myself to actually fully delete. Just do that for now. And then we'll need to do something with this turret. Now, obviously... I mean, first of all, it needs a platform, because it's currently a little bit higher than the floor. It's the same with these, so this will come around and attach itself to the bottom as well. So that won't be too difficult. I think we can definitely make it, well, we're definitely making that within the block limit, but we currently don't have any anti-missile systems on board, so anti-missile lasers are still needed to be attached, and they're going to take up at least 500 blocks. So let's go ahead and do this, and then that'll probably be the last thing we do right now before I just finish it all off on camera, since after that it's going to just be redundancy hunting little singular blocks, adding the anti-missile system, which is the most laborious and boring prospect ever, and setting up missile systems, which I've done a million times on camera. So, I'm not quite at the stage I wanted to be, however, I have had a bit of a brain fart. The current turret taking up a lot of space in the hull over here, the one with very little armour, whose looks I am questioning every time I put it down, may be a little bit redundant on this ship, purely because it can only fire forwards. I could simply have an inside hull stationary cannon. Now this cannon would allow me to use up a lot more space more efficiently, due to, of course, a movable turret needs a room to itself to actually move around. Even if you make it a perfect cylinder, as I've tried to do, it still takes up a lot more space, whereas an actual cannon piece itself and all of its workings can be shoved into a box. And we could do that and have that going down the length of this. This would also allow this little piece of building here to actually serve a purpose, which would be to protect the cannon. This would also enable me to, of course, save blocks, but also cut down on space even further at the front, making all of the top heavily armoured, with the entire structure running most of the length of the ship, and finally it would allow me to have a much longer barrel, which does increase the kinetic damage and the speed, the velocity of the bullets it fires. So just to explain how that works, is it's something which I've never really explored myself, to be perfectly honest. As we can see here with the barrel, it has an inaccuracy modifier, which of course decreases your inaccuracy, makes it more accurate than usual. We then have a kinetic damage change and a muzzle velocity change. Now these two aren't actually shown on the firing piece, or at least they didn't used to be. I may be wrong here, but it used to have to be... Let's just find the actual firing piece itself. There we go. That will show us our kinetic damage and everything else, but that's not the true kinetic damage. It will be a lot higher the longer the barrel, which means, of course, more impact to the shot. The shots also go a lot faster, meaning that A, they're much longer range, and B, much better at shooting moving targets. Even if we are putting on a stationary cannon, of course, the motor element of it will enable it to basically target anything in a huge frontal arc. And I think that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to quickly start building the housing for it, and then I'll be right back. It turns out one of my statements just a moment ago was false, purely because I was going off outdated knowledge. The kinetic damage is now correctly shown via the main cannon piece. As I added extra barrels, the kinetic damage increased on here. When I fired the gun, it was the exact same number both times, as in the correct number being shown in both areas. So that's fantastic. The turret can very easily be housed there. The main components will be underneath the hull, so underneath the deck inside the hull, which will be nice and safe. So that's awesome and makes a very easy turret indeed. We could do the same for these, but I do like the fact they can turn, because it actually means they can fire forward right now. Both of these can indeed fire forwards, which I'm not sure if I want to allow or not, but it does mean that if I ever do want them to fire forward, all I'll have to do is go into their turret segment and simply say allow to fire all, remove constraints. I will simply add constraints though for the time being, disallowing that. So that's pretty darn awesome. Okay, so another thought I had was I could, very well could, remove this flat section here, although it does go inwards, that would be easy to replicate, and have, well, again, the whole surgery element, making the ship a little bit smaller. That way we could allow this armor segment here to run the entire length of the barrel and actually protect the entire ship without running into any problems. And I may do that actually, I very well may, but for now, let's try and finish off this segment here. We'll leave the cannon and everything till next time, as I have already run out of time to record about an hour ago, so let's make it look a little bit better. Obviously not finished yet, but I am really happy with how this section is coming along. So much so, there's a good chance I will be changing these two hangar areas for the missiles into something more similar to this. It looks a bit like an old bomb shelter, honestly, but I really like it. As I've said millions of times, I love the industrial look, I love ships like the Ironclad, that kind of style. It's just the kind of ship I prefer. So obviously my buildings reflect that, and this kind of goes along with that. It's just pure metal, and it's nice, it's curved, it's beautiful, it's holding the turret snugly, and I'm happy with it. Now, I haven't started on the front purely because I still haven't decided if I'm going to be removing this segment or not. I am leaning towards yes, I will be removing it, so probably we will have this kind of height until the end of the ship, and then it will be curved off. And I am almost definitely going to be altering at least altering these segments to make them more like the new segment. But I'm afraid, though, with all that said, I am pretty much out of time today, even though the build is not as complete as I wanted it to be. I spent way too much time shaping and trying to make the best looking thing in my limited skill set. So I hope you've enjoyed the video and the progress we've made. If I do continue to build this on camera, I will make sure to publish a combat video straight after, very, very shortly. This build video is actually the reason why there's three from the Depths videos this week. That was Wednesday, Monday, and Saturday it should be. It may not have been Wednesday, I can't remember, it's all scheduled and weird like that. So, thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that From the Depths is a series you wish to see continued in the future. Thank you again for watching, and goodbye.